Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for June 1st through 7th. This week I read 5 books, I watched 1 show, I watched 3 movies, and I listened to 1 book. From the sheer volume of what I read, you can probably guess it's another round of the Queer Lit Readathon. My strategy whenever I'm doing a readathon that has a lot of things to read is to read the shortest things first, and that's exactly what I did this time. The first one being Out of Left Field. This is a semi-autobiographical graphic novel about this guy growing up, getting onto the baseball team, and realizing that he's queer and what to do about that. I enjoyed that the characters in this made some mistakes. There were definitely characters that also thought that everybody liked them when everybody was just kind of being a jerk to them behind their back. And of course we get to see that there is life after high school, believe it or not. My next short read was the first volume of Boys Run the Riot. This is a manga wherein a trans boy and a cis boy decide that they are going to create a clothing brand together. Near the end of this, they also bring in a guy who really likes photography to do some brand photography for them, and basically this is just a bunch of people coming together and realizing you don't have to be just like everybody else, even though that's pretty on par for the culture in which they grow up. I believe there are 3 more volumes of this, and I have the next one on hold, so maybe I'll also read it this month as well. After that, I took myself to a bar with a patio for a nice summery drink, and I read Flamboyance, the queer Harlem Renaissance I wish I'd known. This is a mixture of essays and poems aimed at a teen audience, and it's talking about these different figures from the Harlem Renaissance. This book got to talk about the intersection of being black and queer in America, as well as many other topics, and I really enjoyed that George would use something from the history of each person and kind of talk about that in a more broad context. As a side note, I know it's not technically summer for a couple more weeks here in the Northern Hemisphere, but it definitely hit us on Vancouver Island yesterday, and I'm sweaty just standing here trying to talk to you, and it is not even 8 o'clock in the morning. The next book I read was Cursed Cocktails. This is all about this blood mage who is retired from his service. He's moved to a completely different town because his doctor says it'll probably be better for his health because he's from the north where it's very, very cold, and he moves somewhere south where there's more sun and more fresh air. While he's there and he's looking for a place to live, he comes across this particular building that has this reputation for being cursed. It seems that every time somebody moves in to set up shop, they kind of leave after about 3 months because weird things happen in the shop overnight. He decides the provenance of the building means that he can probably get it for cheap, which he does get it for a very good steal. And he originally does this just so he can live in the apartment upstairs because this is a cheap way of getting a very nice place in a very nice part of town where he has like great views. But after a while of talking with this particular bartender at the inn that he was staying at, as well as going through his father's journals, who is an adventurer who used to write down different recipes for different cocktails, he thinks, what if we open a bar? This book is delightful and cozy, and it has magic, and it has magic in delightful, cozy ways, as well as ways where you're like, oh no, what's going to happen next? And I just really enjoyed that about this. And now I also want to make all of the drinks that were mentioned. Speaking of a book where a lot of drinking takes place, we have Wrong Answers Only. This is about Marco, and as he's about to go off to Melbourne for university, he suddenly can't do it. And he keeps saying it wasn't a panic attack. I didn't have a panic attack, but it happened twice on the same day where he went to go leave and he just physically could not, and he kept passing out. Because of this, his parents are like, well, you're clearly not ready to go off to university, and they try to figure out what they're going to do with him in the meantime, and his grandmother actually comes up with the perfect solution, at least in her mind, but his father, her son, does not like this idea, and it's to send him halfway across the world to a cruise ship on the Mediterranean where her long-lost son happens to work. So, not wanting to end up working with his dad, he decides, sure, I'll take a free vacation, why not? Now, if you were around for my dramatic reading of the synopsis of the book, you will be spoiled for a particular thing that I thought was just a given because it was in the synopsis, but the book itself treats it like a mystery and you don't really know about it for quite some time into the book, and I don't really like that. Only because it wasn't being brought up, therefore I understood that bad things probably happened in the past. So that reveal was kind of obvious to me once we got around to it. It's decided during the course of this novel that Marco is going to try to do some of the wrong things, and oh my goodness, does that ever happen. On to the one show I watched this week, which was the entirety of the 8th season, and I think most of, if not all of the 9th season of Silent Witness. Just last week when I was talking about this, I was like, oh yeah, I know that at some point Sam Ryan is going to leave the show, and that happened during this week. Also, in the 8th season, the title sequence changed. It's still the same song, but it's to a slightly different beat, and it doesn't bother me as much as it did before. before. And then the title sequence changes visually in the 9th season, and I feel like it was trying to be a little bit more CSI in its interpretation, but still kind of blurry and weird, so I don't know how to feel about it. It's probably going to change a few more times over the years because, oh yeah, it's still ongoing. And this scene must have been from the early to mid-2000s. I enjoyed getting to see Sam off. I enjoyed seeing the lads just try to do things by themselves and how that worked out. And then we got the girl who I know is going to eventually look exactly like the woman on the thumbnail of the show on BritBox because she looks like her but way younger. And so far, I really like her character, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this progresses. As for the movies we watched Another Simple Favor, which is the sequel to A Simple Favor, in which our mommy vlogger character has written a book about her experience with the whole situation that happened in the last movie, and then all of a sudden that person shows up and is like, hey, you have to come to my wedding as the maid of honor, and she's like, hell no, I don't want to do that, I don't want to get murdered. But she ends up going, it's on an island in Italy, and things occur. It's probably only because I watched both of these movies close to each other, but I figured out what the twist was going to be in this one. But had I watched them 2 years apart, I probably would have taken longer to figure that out. This week we also watched the 2025 version of Snow White, and you know what? I didn't hate it. All I really knew going into this is there's some contention about the casting of the main character because people will be contentious about things like that, and I actually really didn't mind the updates to this classic, so that's just me. You can have your own opinion, that's fine. My roommate and I really laughed when there was a certain song about princess problems, and yeah, that was a good time. Speaking of musicals, we also rewatched The Producers, which I'm sure we watched about 6 months ago, but we watched it again because it's just so good. We also kind of talked about how their scam only makes sense if they're selling shares in something instead of just gathering money and then giving back certain money based on what people have given you, but you know, it's fine. We're not financial experts by any means. In any case, it was wonderful to just make a very big picture of sangria and rewatch this movie. Finally, the audiobook I listened to this week is Secrets Typed in Blood, which is the third in the Pentecost and Parker series. This is a gumshoe detective series being narrated by Willow Jean Parker, who is the assistant to Lillian Pentecost, who is the #1 detective in New York City in, I believe, the late 40s, possibly early 50s. I can't remember exactly which year this is set. They're always working on multiple cases, and at the beginning of this they're wrapping something up as they come to a meeting with a new client who is adamant that somebody is stealing her murders. At first they're like, excuse me? What? That doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? It turns out she is a writer. She writes short stories specifically to do with murders and that type of thing, and she's noticed that at least 3 of them that she's written under a certain pseudonym have been used to kill people, and she's seen the cases in the news. Rightfully so, she's kind of freaked out about this. However, she does not want to go to the police with this information because she knows that there will be leaks and then her very private life will no longer be very private. So she wants Pentecost and Parker to be on the case, but to be very discreet about it. I absolutely adore this series, especially because it's in Will's voice, and she is just very much sarcastic and quick-witted and always here with a really fun turn of phrase, and it's just such a fun viewpoint for the series. And essentially we're getting the whole series from her point of view because she is just writing these memoirs of her boss. I also really enjoyed that we got to see some interpersonal distress between the two of them because certain things were being kept from people, but not for bad reasons, just reasons that make sense once you actually find out about them, and it's just great. Also, if audiobooks are your thing, the narrator in this audiobook does a fantastic job. Everybody gets their own voice, and it's just really good. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!